Hey guys, so welcome to our next episode of the Madison and Mountain View. Today's theme is actually a little bit ironic since this is a time of day when I am the least fashionable. It is 9 a.m. However, we're going to be discussing the future of fashion tech with two very special guests. So, Rob and Pavan, if you'll take a moment to introduce yourselves.
Um, sure. So I'm Rob Sanchez. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Manufacture New York, and my job is sort of putting together the business side of companies and where they all work.
Cool. My name is Pavan Ball. I'm the founder of Open Source Fashion. It's a community of helpful innovators that focus on the convergence of fashion and technology.
And then Pavan and I also run a podcast called Fashion is Your Business, which is about fashion tech and fashion investment.
So I was curious, and this is something that we've talked about, quite a bit in the last couple of months. Like the whole fashion technology piece. I've been a little bit interested in that just because it seems like there's natural limitations that we have right now when it comes to fashion and technology, specifically around integration of technology into physical wearables outside of what we see right with with bracelets, rings, necklaces, like things that can easily be sort of like that, things that can be easily disguised, right, in terms of technology, and you can integrate in batteries and wiring and all those things. How far do you guys think we are from a point where technology allows us to wear a shirt, right, that looks like a shirt but has technology integrated into it? Like, what sort of barriers do you guys see in that realm? Because for me, that's the most interesting part of the integration of fashion and technology.
Yeah, and I would say the same. So there's a lot of really, really smart people working on the fabric side or the textile side of technology. So ultimately, we're calling it fashion technology, but ultimately it's just going to be clothing, right? So there was a point where clothes were technology, like we were using spinning jennies to make fabric and stuff. So I guess it's just the next iteration of what we're going to consider clothes. And there are folks that are working on stuff like this. Like there's a gentleman out of Princeton, Daniel Steingart, that's working on battery woven technologies. So actually weaving batteries into your fabrics. There's a lot of treatments that are out there. One specifically that is that I just came across through our program with Startup Weekend, which is like a hydrophobic technology or a treatment to cotton, which is non-allergenic, and basically when they're making their fabric or their cotton, they're putting a treatment on it that repels liquids. So you can see it's it's used easily in baby clothes or kitchen aprons and all kinds of cool stuff. And again, these are things that feel like cotton, like fabric. There's no there's no wristlet attached to it or cameras or things like that. And I'm sure, Rob, you could speak on some of this stuff also. And there's I know Amanda. You could talk about some of Amanda's work also, I'm sure, Rob.
Sure. So one of the biggest issues right now is just the connection between a soft material and a hard material is very difficult. The actual connectors are the missing piece. So we know how to do the wiring, we know how to move it through the shirts. We can use like Shima Seiki has machines that allow you to insert circuits throughout as you're doing a woven piece. There's all these different ways to construct the actual pathways through the garments, and then we just need to figure out that last little component. How do you connect it to the battery source? As Pavan was mentioning, we're helping out with the moving of those batteries, the woven batteries. We're helping figuring out how do you attach that power source to the circuit, to all the different components that you need. And then it's really just like once you figure out how to connect everything, then all of a sudden you don't have to worry about having a bulky pack that comes with you or hiding everything in a silicone bracelet or putting the entire power source inside of wherever it is that has the actual functionality.
Yeah, so a really long answer to your short question is probably pretty soon.
No, and that's really interesting. We've talked about this future vision over here, which you guys probably have an interesting perspective on, of going to your closet and 3D printing out an outfit for the day, and kind of how realistic that could be. You know, we always joke H&M clothes are disposable anyway, so you wear them like one time and then you're done with them. But do you think, kind of with technology and the future of fabrics, not from a added value tech side, but from a just creating through 3D printed materials, that's something that's realistic, and when?
There's a company I'm actually working with on commercializing that technology. One of the biggest issues with what you're discussing is the solvent is very expensive.
Okay.
But what we're looking at doing there is it's a 3D printed material that you can put back into the solvent and dissolve and reprint. So you're not just throwing it away, which is a big issue with 3D.
And what,
but you're recycling it.
and are there like multiple colors? Like, how advanced can it be, or is it just like you could make a black shirt?
Right now it's basically just basics. What we were discussing is it's kind of ideal for men whose response to, like,
Business
instead of
travel.
doing laundry, you just buy another pack of underwear. At least that's like the college man's solution.
Yeah.
And so you can like print out new socks, you can print out new underwear, you can print out T-shirts. The thing that we were looking at with this company is, can you take it a step further and also have an iTunes-like database of images that you then print on those T-shirts so that you can change whatever shirt it is that you're wearing.
Very cool.
That's probably a couple generations away, because then the question becomes, now that you've printed on it, how do you remove those dyes so that you can then start fresh again?
Yeah.
Or does everything just eventually become gray?
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, are you working with Kinematics? Is that the company that you're referring to?
No, it's a Body by Print, and what they've done is worked with, do you remember the Fabrican, which is the spray-on cotton dress?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So Fabrican, that technology, they have a license on to sort of develop that into a 3D printer.
So what this company has done, I think they're called Nervous System. Their dress is called the Kinematics, and they're using a plastic that allows them to use 3D printing, but it moves and flows like a fabric. They actually had a runway show with it. But they've, I think they're one of the first to actually 3D print a really intricate gown dress. So if you guys take a look at that, I think it's called Kinematics. Let me just quickly take a look at this.
One that Maddie worked on, or?
Yeah, Maddie was involved with it. Yeah, it is called Kinematics by Nervous System.
Very cool. This is the first actual perspective we've gotten on that vision, so it's interesting to hear that it's closer to reality than we thought.
Yeah, there's different approaches. One is, do you basically create either interlocking or flexible plastics, or do you try and work with the delivery of more of a natural fiber? So I think the two we just discussed are sort of opposite ends of that spectrum.
Yeah.
So what's the craziest piece of fashion tech that you two would wear out?
So neither of us are quite fashionable. Well, I'll say myself. I'm not very fashionable. I'll let Rob say the same about himself. But, I mean, so what's interesting about this stuff is, so fashion or wearable technology has such a broad scope and definition, or there is no real definition for it. So I don't really know what it is. For me right now, it's my iPhone.
Yeah.
I pretty much wear mine all the time.
Yeah.
I think the most advanced fashion piece that I wear is like a snap, a zipper, or a button. I mean, not much further than that.
Hey, they were innovative at a time.
Exactly. Yep.
and they still are. What about wearables? So I've been reading recently some thoughts around how there's some struggles with accepting wearables because they're not easy to use the data. So it's just kind of a data dump and nobody knows how to action it. We've met some startups that are actually trying to provide some context around the data, whether it's from a fitness perspective, so kind of connecting you with personal trainers so that the actual data that you're getting from your wearable is going to a personal trainer, or from a pregnancy perspective or fertility perspective, how can we use that data to have kind of a healthy pregnancy and provide guidance for you? Have you guys come across any other ways that people are trying to make wearables a little bit more actionable or useful, or are you guys focused more on just kind of the fashion part of it?
Yeah, I mean, you read about it all the time, so it's actually the broader scope of the impact or the larger, I guess, opportunity is to impact health, I feel. So when you were mentioning fertility is a really great example, but another thing that I came across is something that looks like a tattoo on your skin, but it's actually secreting glucose into your bloodstream. So folks with diabetes, no longer have to shoot themselves with insulin every day. That's wearable technology. I think it's there are some really, really incredible applications, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a fashion garment.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd actually seen a wearable before. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a tiny little disc that you sew into the side of your shirt, and it tells you how much sun you've gotten and like whether you're gonna get burned. I think they were Swiss or something. But yeah, I immediately picked up on it as somebody who often gets burned to a crisp in the sun.
Yeah.
So that was another kind of cool health tech wearable piece that I had heard of.
Yeah, I actually think I think health tech is, so for wearable, I think health tech is the most meaningful use of it. And I think it could be used right away, and it is being used right away. Not that it can be. Some wearables are obviously already communicating to physicians and to emergency response systems and things like that, so the elderly don't necessarily have to feel lost or at home if they're not necessarily in nursing care or with their families. So I think that, I guess the answer to that is I think in the healthcare is the biggest and broadest.
Do you think fashion brands can do more? So immediately it comes to mind like Tory Burch kind of making a fashionable wearable bracelet. Do you think they can do more to create kind of an added value experience for consumers beyond just the fashion aspect?
Well, I think right now we're kind of stuck in this let's wrap it in something and disguise it mode.
Yep.
And the next phase is to actually start thinking together with the technology and figuring it out. And so actually another one of Maddie's projects was the dress that changed shape based on how you wanted it. I can't remember.
Yes, so we mentioned Maddie quite a bit. Maddie is a co-founder of a company called The Crated. And they're a research and development firm for, wearable technologies or companies that want to experiment within the space. Sorry, go ahead.
And this dress that changed shape, was this something that, like, what was the technology that went into that? Like, how heavy was that? Like, when we talk about, like, integrating hard and soft. I mean, is that something that somebody would actually wear yet?
I believe it changed shape by running current through different portions of the dress, and then that made it rigid or soft.
Okay.
So it actually changed the material property of the dress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they were experimenting with what if your body doesn't have to form to your clothing, what if your clothing could form to your body?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that. I get a lot of shirts that stretch out. I wish they could go back.
Your shirts probably don't look like origami, though.
No.
Yeah, I often buy clothes online because I'm lazy, and if I could just conform it to my body if it didn't fit, that would save me a lot of returns.
Yes.
Yeah, that touches on what they do. So they're a really interesting company that created.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. So in the last minute before we wrap it up, what are you guys most excited for in 2015, looking down the fashion pipeline?
For me, if it's wearables, because that is seemingly where the interest is, I think it's in sports. So I'm interested to see where both health tech, of course, but for me, I want to see how the interactivity with broadband or, with television can interact with, the at-home viewer experience, specifically with sports watching.
And I guess I'm really interested in seeing more communication between different parts of the industry, so both on the tech side and on the fashion side, and seeing what can really happen when people are working together instead of finishing something and then handing it off. We recently had a client basically say, We
Oh, Rob,
you put it in, and there's no. What?
Cut off for a second.
Oh, you cut out for a second.
Lost you for a second.
Okay. Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we recently had a client say, I finished this, now I need clothing to put it in, and I want to get away from that, and I'm really looking forward to more communication early on.
We hear you. That's what we're all about, upstream collaboration with brands and startups, and we think the earlier the better, so you can kind of see the objectives on both sides. So we totally agree with you there.
For sure. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and happy Almost Fashion Week.
Yeah, it was fun being here. Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
Of course. We'll see you guys soon.
All right, take care.
Ciao.
Bye.